everyone, and welcome to the Wench Bench, where friends sit and talk about fabulous fictional females and how their stories have influenced us throughout our lives. My name is Alison.
And my name is Fonda.
And today, Fonda is going to be talking about Andy from the movie The Old Guard.
Yes, strictly the movie, not the comic books. I actually didn't know that the movie was based off a comic book series until I was doing some research for it.
Yeah.
Did you know it was based off a comic book series?
I did. Nick mentioned it.
Okay, because I was going to say, you're the only person I know that would know these things.
Yeah, I did know it was comic. I never read the comic. It was kind of like an art style that's not really my jam in comics. But I heard it's good. And I really enjoyed the movie.
Oh, so. I loved the movie. I loved it very much. And that's why I want to talk about it.
Yes.
So what do you know so far, Alison? Before I go into like the general information, like what do you remember? Because you've watched it.
Yeah, I watched it a while ago. It's been a minute. But I know that she is like an immortal warrior who fights with a bunch of other also immortal warriors. And that's pretty cool. She is just awesome.
Oh, I know.
I do remember
so much.
Yeah, I remember really enjoying the movie. I thought it was an absolute riot. With the two of the other people in it who were gay were just the sweetest, most best couple goals in the whole entire world.
They were great. I love them.
So why don't you tell us about the movie?
I will. For anyone that hasn't watched, I'm going to do like a general info blip now about the movie before I talk about Andy, who's the best. She's like, Charlize Theron just such a good job.
Charlize Theron, as she has aged, has been just amazing. I have loved watching her rise to like action star fame. It's been perfection.
I know. She's wonderful. I haven't seen something yet that I didn't like her in.
No, she's great. I love her so much.
I know. I always love her roles, even if I don't like the movie itself. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And I feel that way about, there's been some like movies that I'm just like, that movie was trash, but the actor was great.
Yeah. So The Old Guard is a 2020 American action film directed by Gina Prince Bythewood and written by Greg Rucka, based on the comic book series of the same name, starring Charlize Theron, Kiki Lane, Matthias Matthias Schoenaerts. I'm not doing justice to you. Marwan Kazari, Luca Marinelli, Harry Milling, and Veronica Go.
I'm guessing, but probably no. It's fine.
Anyways, so the film follows a team of immortal mercenaries on a revenge mission, pretty much. The film itself is set in the modern era with flashbacks to various characters' pasts. What you learn as the viewer right away is that for some reason, different people are randomly chosen, ? It's undecided
Seemingly.
if it's random, if there's a calculation-based mathematical decision, if there's a higher power that does it, or there's some sort of genetic thing that makes these people have this immortal capability, but they're chosen throughout history to become immortal. It's explained that no one really knows why, but Andy and her team, who are named the Old Guard, view it as an opportunity to protect and help humanity. which I like. I mean,
Yeah.
it's, I think, assumed or guessed that there's a lot of people that might have been immortal, and we're not really told about like anyone they weren't able to find or help.
Yeah.
When traveling the world was a lot less easy than it is now to find people who can suddenly become immortal.
Yeah.
So we, at least as the viewers in the movie, I think are assumed that most of these people are doing things to be good people.
Mm-hmm.
But
and well, don't they get like weird dreams or something?
They dream
when
of
a new
each
one
other,
arrives. Yeah. Which is kind of cute.
Yeah, which is, I think, very adorable. But I think it's also hard to say if there were other bad people.
I mean, you know, bad apple in every bunch kind of deal.
There is. And again, I haven't read the comics, but the movie. Listen, I've had a long day of.
It's been a long week.
A long teaching week for me, and I'm a tired woman. But the movie definitely made me want to read the comics to some extent. So everything I'm going to be talking about and everything that Alison and I are going to discuss, strictly movie adaptation related. But given that the movie was actually written by Greg Rucka, who wrote the comics, I trust that it's a very cool like rendition.
Yeah, like a faithful adaptation.
Yeah. So I'm very excited for that reason. So just some general information about Andy. I want to talk about Andy now.
Yeah. First of all, if anybody does want to watch it, it's still on Netflix.
It is. It's also on Amazon Prime too, actually. There's
fancy.
2 places you can check it out.
Interesting.
Depending where you choose to spend your money.
Maybe both.
maybe both. So Andy was born circa 4,500 BCE, somewhere in the Western Steppe, which extends from the Altai Mountains to north of the Black Sea. Her mother died when she was young, with Andy mentioning to Neil that she had sisters whose faces she can't even remember. And after her mother's death, she was honed into the warrior she is today, until one such elder became jealous of her and sent her off to battle, assuming, she would perish.
Die.
Something would happen, right? It did result in her first death, but she came back to life again and then found out she was immortal.
Yay!
And from that, she eventually became the elder of her tribe after defeating the enemies who killed her for the first time.
Yeah. And well, when you're immortal and don't age, it's pretty easy to probably become the elder of your tribe.
I think so.
Just wait it out.
Yeah, and especially back then, too. I'm sure they'd be like, oh my God, she's like, like different like religious cultural beliefs. It could be like you were chosen. Mm-hmm. Right? Like if someone was like an immortal warrior, I'd be like, yes, please be the tribe's elder. Like that means good things. You don't have to worry about you dying of like dysentery or something.
Damn Oregon Trail. You died of dysentery.
You died of dysentery.
Damn it. Dysentery.
Anyways, that aside, after hundreds of years, she did leave her position in an attempt to forgo the loneliness that she felt due to her immortality. It was after this time that she met Noriko, who is also known as Quinn in the movie. And Lycan much later, as well as Yusuf, who's known as Joe, and Niccolo, who's known as Nikki, all of whom were also immortal. So in the film, she's about 6,000 years old. She is also the leader of the Old Guard, which makes sense because she's presumably the oldest immortal. Mm-hmm. So it's like, cool.
She also seems to be the most skilled in battle as well.
Yeah.
She is formidable.
She is. And like considering she led a tribe for thousands of years as well, it'd be like, yeah, you have leadership capabilities.
Yeah.
Like you have, your resume is stacked. Please lead the old guard is what I would do.
Yeah.
But it appears that she actually fell into the position instead of choosing to take it, because of, like, again, how old she was compared to everybody else. And like you said, Alison, because of how skilled and capable she is as a warrior.
Yes.
It fell upon her. As I was doing some like more research for this episode, I came across a really good Polygon article, which I will link in our episode notes. And I would like to add a quote about some stuff that I think is, I mean, I could paraphrase it, but this person just did such a good job. So shout out to the unnamed Polygon author of this article. Didn't have a name. So I was like, okay.
Oh.
I know. I don't know if it was just like an oopsie or what, but anyway, so Netflix's Old Guard is a remarkably faithful comic book adaptation, which makes sense considering the screenplay was written by Greg Rucka. The real surprise is that the movie is additive to the comic, including new character moments and more reveals about the world. Rucka does make one big change, however, and it's all to do with Charlize Theron's Andy, the 6,000-year-old leader of a band of immortal warriors. So I don't want to spoil what gets changed for anyone that hasn't seen it or wants to see it or also wants to read the comic. So I'm going to be as vague as I can, especially because I haven't read the comic books myself, so I never did a deep dive to it. I just checked to see what it was that was changed. That being said, according to the article by Susan Polo, who also wrote a different article from Polygon about the film, she had an opportunity to speak with Greg Rucka, and he stated that he wanted something more character-focused in the films. And to do that, he needed to impose some sort of, as he said it, like a ticking clock, which I had to figure that out because he said it was like a Hollywood thing. So in terms of Hollywood movie standards, it means that the characters are put into immediate crisis mode, forcing characters to confront things in their life they would not otherwise choose to do.
Yes.
So let's just say a ticking clock happens. I think Alison might know what it is.
I do.
But he wanted that for the films. And personally, after having watched it, and now I know what that change is, I think it was a great choice for Andy, because it does have to do with Andy, and I think the decision they made makes sense.
And well, when adapting something like a comic book, like comic books are such, not that TV isn't a visual medium, but like comic books really rely on being visually interesting. Like you can't just have people talking a bunch because it's boring, right? So it's kind of based on like visually interesting things happening, like fighting or whatever. It sounds like he relished the chance to kind of morph and change and explore what he had created in a different way, which I think is a really cool opportunity he got, and it's fun.
Yeah. And I think it also makes sense because when I think about the fact that, well, like it's really hard for anyone to play an immortal character when it takes like a year or two for a movie to be filmed and then edited and then finally produced and then put into theaters, that when they see how good a movie does or even a TV series does, it takes a bit for them to like then go film the next part or the next few, that like it's easy to see actors age. Like that's why like Stranger Things, I loved it, but like they weren't gonna stay those young youthful kids forever, and they knew that with the series, so they had to like, you know, jump a few years in between when things were happening because of how quickly people do age. And when you become an adult, it's a little easier for like, I think your prime years to be whatever age you can in a show or series.
Yeah.
But over time, you do notice when a person gets old.
Yeah. And well, like you have to like, I'm sure they didn't know whether or not they were going to get a sequel. So it's like, I think they did a good job in like leaving it open to that, but not leaving you feeling as if you did not get an entire story. And as far as like having aged people, like that's one part of why Brent Spiner has talked about it a lot in regards to Data and doing anything more with Star Trek. He's like, no, like Data's a robot. Like he does not age. I cannot go back. Like we can't do more because I'm old. And so like he's talked about that a lot. And then you get things like Terminator, where they keep bringing back Arnie and he just gets older and they keep having to come up with reasons of why he looks so old. And they're like, no, it's fine. The skin on top of the Terminator robot ages because I don't know. Because we need it to. And it's just like, oh my God.
Needed to fit in high tech scenarios where they're undercover for that long.
Yeah, I guess. And so, yeah, I sympathize with the plight of not being able to freeze actors in time.
Yes.
They are working on it technology-wise with the Star Wars and everything.
Yeah. Oh my God. Let's move on from that bit. But so Andy's such like a capable character in the films.
Mm-hmm.
And
love a capable woman.
Oh, I know. And I find her really complex as well. Because when I first was watching it, I was really worried. Because while I was excited to watch it, I remember telling Adam, I'm like, oh man, please don't let, like, I love Charlize Theron, but please don't let her character be like flat. Because I sometimes get worried that when there's a strong, capable character, male, female, non-binary, doesn't matter, that I'm worried that we only get to see them as being capable. And funnily enough, I feel like that happens a lot with men in a lot of action movies. They're only ever seen as like maybe a few emotional like notes or pages, but it's like they're always
forgiven because they're men.
I know.
And men aren't supposed to be emotional. And when a woman does the exact same performance, she gets shit on for it.
I know. So I was really worried about that because I'm like, please don't let it be that, because it's dumb and it doesn't make for an interesting character in my opinion. Unless they're like a robot where they're only supposed to, right? Like unless it's a certain thing where it like makes sense. And even then being immortal, I get that over time, when you live for so long, it makes sense story-wise for people to have like a disassociation with their feelings. So there was part of me that was like, okay, like it'll make sense if she's not fully like an emotional person, but I don't want her to just be like a stone cold, like I don't care about anything, I'm here to do a job and that's it kind of person.
Yeah.
Because I can't connect with that.
No, and I think that partly, I don't want to say like completely comes down to, but I think it partly comes down to the actor. Yeah. And Charlize Theron has just a skill at adding depth in like super subtle ways. Like you see her in Mad Max. Like,
just great. It's
amazing.
Really
so good. And like there's these little moments that I don't know if it's like an expression or what it is, where you see her kind of like go from this like hard to like, you see like that little bit of sympathy, that little bit of softness come out, but she's like, she hasn't really done anything. It's like a posture or an expression or something. I remember in The Old Guard, there's like, she gets hurt and she has to go to the
I want to talk about that. Yeah, I have that in my notes.
I mean, we can wait if you want.
Yeah,
we can talk about it later.
But yeah, no, I know what you're getting at.
Yeah, there's a part where she shows her sympathetic soft side, and we're gonna get to that. And I'm gonna shut my mouth and let Fonda tell the story.
It's okay, it's fine. I do that to you too. I'll be like, oh, what about this? And you'll be like, oh, I'm getting to that, and I'll be like, got you. Okay. We
continue.
Great minds think alike when it comes to certain things. I would now like to talk about why I like her, because there's a lot of reasons why I like Andy, but I think my big main reason is I've really found myself gravitating towards her because of her beliefs. And one of them was like her found family aspect. I personally, big, strong believer of found family. I know for some people it's like blood is thicker than water. And I think that depends on certain circumstances, you know, like that's true.
And if you finish that phrase, have you heard the whole phrase?
No.
Blood is thicker than water, but the wine of the covenant is more precious than the water of the womb, or something like that. Like the whole thing basically says, like, yeah, like blood may be thicker than water, like you may be more connected to your family, but at the end of the day, it is the choices you make and who you choose to spend time with that actually matters the most.
See, I hate that people cut these quotes short on me as kids.
Yeah,
I never knew.
Yeah, like jack of all trades, like, or a master. It's like a jack of all trades. Oh, what's the full one?
It's almost like her screen is frozen. That's how, like, that's what she looks like.
Oh, the phrase is a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. It's apparently William Shakespeare, which
God
thanks,
damn
Internet.
Shakespeare.
But yeah, like a lot of the phrases we learned as kids are wrong. So
they're not correct. They get morphed.
Found family is approved by the Bible. So.
If we ever
take that,
that should be a pin. If we ever make pins. But yeah, so like I love the found family trope. I love when anyone kind of has a belief about the family they make. It's just something I connect with. Not that I have a bad relationship with my family, but I feel like the people I've surrounded myself with that are not related to me are people I really value. And Andy is a very passionate, independent person who I think staves off her loneliness by herself for the most part. And even though she knows she doesn't need to, I think she's very tough on herself. Like often we see her blaming any mistake that's made by the team kind of on her. You know, she takes one for the team, kind of like a captain. Like at the end of the day, she's like, I maybe gave a wrong call. Like bad things come to me, which I think is a commendable trait, but also I think it can be like, you know, a harsh one for an individual person who's immortal for 6,000 years.
Yeah. Like that's, and over the 6,000 years, it's like, well, congratulations, you're taking on a lot of shit that doesn't actually like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when Noriko was captured, who was like her first companion, and I like to think like love interest.
Oh,
like,
for sure. 100%.
Love interest. 100%.
Yeah. No, there's.
Yeah. Like there's no question. I don't care.
There's no reading that movie.
Yeah, I know.
Without like a healthy spoonful of queerness.
Healthy spoonful. Scoop. But when she gets captured and put in an iron coffin at the bottom of the sea, which I have a lot of fears, but my top fears are space. I like learning about space and thinking about space. Do I ever want to be in space? No, thank you. That is a vacuum of immediate death. And I feel the exact same about the ocean.
About the ocean that is...
It's not a vacuum.
Just as unknown.
But it is a vast unknown that will drown me. And if someone puts me in a coffin to have me plop to the bottom of the ocean, a lake, I don't care. That just like...
And once you get deep enough, you'll just like implode on yourself.
Oh, I know. It's like the opposite of space.
It's the opposite. Instead of no pressure, there's all the pressure, like 100% of the pressure.
I know. See,
terrifying.
This is why I'm fine being on Earth. I'll die here. I don't need to go anywhere.
I'm good.
But understandably, I think Andy took that very personally. Like,
yes.
And
and just to know that it's just like, forever, completely in solitude, drowning over and over and over again. It's like, that is the most terrifying fate in like the entire world.
I know. And like one, they're all constantly reminded of it because as we talked about earlier, like they have dreams when each other die.
Yeah.
And so they're always having dreams of Noriko when she's drowning.
Which is just horrifying.
It's terrible.
So,
and like, I think that just reminds her that she left someone behind. Like, even though she didn't choose to do it, and even though she talks in the film that she went to try to find her over and over again, and she just couldn't, which makes sense. Like, the bottom of the ocean is constantly changing. Even though you're in an iron coffin, I'm sure like shifts in tectonic plates and like a really strong tsunami somewhere probably pushes like the sediment and stuff. Like, it's probably impossible to find.
Yeah, it's like it's buried now. It's gone.
Yeah. And so like just her feelings about found family, I think like I totally understood.
Yeah.
Again, I don't have dreams of my friends when they're dying or when they cut themselves with a piece of paper. Like, I don't have anything like that, but I definitely feel guilty and personally targeted in some way, not by my friend. Personally responsible when I can't do something, even if I'm there and I'm capable. If I'm unable to for whatever reason, I feel really bad. So I totally get Andy. And throughout the film, this is where we're getting closer to the scene. I've split my notes up to take ourselves there down the staircase. We're not going up, we're going down because it's a really emotional scene. But throughout the film, Andy can appear rather like she lacks emotions, as we kind of talked about earlier. But in my opinion, it appears to me that Andy is putting on a mask a lot of the time, which of course, like, I imagine her life led her to how she is now. And this could be her personality after 6,000 years. I'm sure it's a mixed bag, right? Like, people grow and change. And if you're alive for that long, you grow and change. But I think this like mask, quote unquote, that she wears may not be fake anymore. Yeah. And so I kind of like view that she feels like she's always had to play a specific role, and now she is the warrior woman who has become like stone and is like collected and prepared and doesn't let her emotions show or like get the better of her in battle, but she's still like, she gets that she needs to be human enough, right? Like, no one wants a leader that doesn't care or have any emotions.
Yeah. And like, it's almost like a defense mechanism, right? It's like, after so many years, after watching so many people die and for struggling for so long, it's like she did what she had to do in order to still survive, but still maintain a certain level of humanity. Because if you lost that as an immortal being, I doubt that you would be spending all of your time trying to make things better.
Yeah. And trying to help the world in whatever way you could. And
lose your hope and your will to live, kind of thing, right?
Yeah. And so that's why I think Andy just constantly, she's putting the emotions aside. I feel like it's not that she's not feeling them. She's just like, I can't have them now. Yeah. I feel like she's like choosing not to deal with them, which doesn't mean that they aren't there. Like, anyone that goes through anything in life, sometimes you're put in a really shitty situation. You either have like the flight, the fight, or the freeze. And depending on which one you have, I think that'll depend on how you deal with the emotions at the time or later. And I feel like she's just often in fight mode, which...
there's two more. There's like friends, and then there's like another one.
I know that the most common ones are fight, flight, and freeze.
Yes. And apparently that's because they only did studies on men. Shocker. Wow. But there's one that's friends, where you try and essentially you be nice. Like, you try and make friends with this threat in front of you. You try and like diffuse the situation. And then there's like another one where you essentially like seek help is like the other one. It's like, it would be like calling for help or like seeking out friendship in like something else. So yeah, there's two more. There's like 5.
I'll Look at me learning everything, guys.
I originally saw that on TikTok and then was like, I have to go look this up. And then I did, and it was fascinating. And I read stuff for like 2 hours.
Well, damn.
So, yeah.
Love a learning
Learned a new tip today.
I love that. Forever a learner. Yeah, so like to get back on with that, one of the reasons I like her is because of the flaws that she has. And one of the flaws, I think, being the fact that she has a hard time, I think, showing the emotions that maybe she has forgotten to show in a way. Like not asking for help, which is going to lead us into the scene in about one sentence. Again, she's often shown doing this, and not because I don't think she believes she doesn't need help. Like, I think she knows she needs help. Like, that's why she has a team. That's why she'll take people out and they do things as a group. And like, she knows how to have a tribe. Like, I feel like Andy knows that you need people to do things. You need a community. But I think when it comes to her own problems that are personal to herself, I think she has a hard time asking for help.
Yes. I feel that in my soul.
Yes, same here. Yeah. And I think it's because she doesn't want to be a burden. You know what I mean? Like, I think she hates that idea.
Yeah.
Which I get 100%. So I think her not asking for help is actually of her way showing she isn't a burden, which counterintuitively.
Yes.
So the scene in the film.
Yes.
Andy goes to a pharmacy. This is at the point in the movie, spoilers, she isn't healing. She's sustaining wounds. So she goes to buy items to dress a wound, something that she hasn't had to do to herself or her crew in a very long time. And the cashier in the pharmacy notices that Andy has no idea how to dress her own wound. Which I love this little like small character moment so much.
Yeah.
And the cashier offers to help. Andy accepts it, and it's one of my favorite scenes for her character because she's vulnerable. She's realizing that she's not immortal anymore. She's a human. Like, she's back to just being someone that has now one life to live.
Yeah.
Permanently.
Death means a lot more.
Yeah. And now she's, I think, also realizing if the wound gets worse, she will be a burden on people. Because she's not caring for herself. But of course, she's alone. She's trying to do it on her own. And I think anyone will know that sometimes it's easier to ask for help from a stranger than from people you know in some cases.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah. So I thought that this was like really great because it was just like, oh, like, I've been there all the time. Like, sometimes you'll drop something in a grocery store and you're having a hard time and there's someone beside you and you're like, oh, do you mind? Like, can you pick that up for me, please? Help me put it back in here. Or like even at school with students all the time. I mean, it gets harder and harder when they know you. But like when I was a sub, I would go in and I noticed that I was often asked a lot more for help versus when they got to know me. And so I really liked this scene because I think it was a good baseline to, in a way where Andy was, I think, a little bit more comfortable being vulnerable because it wasn't like she was being judged by the people she cared about.
Yeah. And I think this scene would have been a lot. I think this scene hit different because it was a female cashier as well. Like it just, I think a lot of, having talked to like a lot of like my girlfriends and stuff, they've all had these sort of like moments. You get a lot of times in like bathrooms at bars where there's just this like lovely, like feminine energy that's like all about camaraderie and like you see another person going through something you can experience. It happened to me when I was working out in Saskatchewan. I was just having like a real rough day. And so I went to the girls' bathroom and I was crying sitting on the sink.
Oh, Alison.
And a little tiny welder chick came in And she's like shorter than me. She was like 100 pounds soaking wet. Like, I have no idea how this woman was a welder.
Strong bones.
And she's just like, I get it. Like, and she actually got up and like sat next to me, and we just like sat there. Like, we didn't really talk or anything. She just like,
Aww.
we just leaned on each other for like 5-10 minutes, and then we like went about our day. So it's just like, I just cried in a bathroom with a stranger. But like, it was this like healing moment where it's like, I was one in 100, if not 150 women on site. And that is if you include the women who were cleaners, not just like tradeswomen. Like, that number was infinitely smaller. And so it's like having this person just come in and be like, I know exactly what you're feeling. And it was like day like 11 or 12 of a 14-day shift. And like, I'm seeing these same men for like 12 hours a day. And it just was too much. And it's just, she's just like, I get it. And so like, seeing this scene when I watched it the first time, I was like, I know exactly that feeling where you see somebody and you're just like, I know what you're going through and I'm going to help you. And it's just gonna, like, you don't have to thank me. It's just me doing what I would like somebody else to do for me. Mm-hmm. And knowing too that like Andy has undoubtedly through the years helped countless people. Like, no way to figure out how many people she helped. And it's just like this one person who with their one short life was like, I'm going to help you. And it's just so sweet. I love that scene so much.
It was like truly my favorite scene in the film. There were other cool fight scenes, but it was like my really favorite character moment for Andy. And just I like Andy a lot. And I'm just excited and hopeful for a second movie, giving the ending of the first movie. I mean, like, it doesn't even have to have a second one. It could really be good just as is. Leaves for a lot of cool, like, creative, like, content, I think, fanfics, whatever. But until then, I'm just like, I want more characters like Andy.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Charlize Theron has to play them all. If she does, very cool. But she doesn't need to be the only one who plays all these cool characters that are like warrior women that are like still maternal in a different way. And I really like her.
Decades of male-led action movies. It is time for badass female-led action movies of all non-male genders and different races too would be super cool. I actually love that about this movie, how diverse the cast was.
Very diverse. They did a really good job. And
it makes sense. Because they're from all over the world.
They are, which is great. And I think the movie on its own has a lot of cool characters we could talk about. Like Noriko. I guess she wasn't in the movie for very long, but that ending and the allusion to more content for the old guard is like, Noriko. Like,
and the new girl?
She's so cool.
There's a girl who, like, you get to watch her discover that she's immortal, and she belongs to the army, and is just so awesome. And watching, like, Andy take her character kind of under her wing, and sort of show her the ropes, and just be like, yeah, like, this is scary. And then, of course, there's this young woman who, in a modern time, to all of a sudden now have to give up your entire life because you're immortal, and if people find that out, bad things are going to happen. And she's like, but what about like my family? What about my mom and my brother who I care about and love, and they would know that I was missing? And it added this whole new element to the story where I think she like acted to remind Andy of what it meant to be mortal again. And then Andy runs into that, and it was a very clever like plot, and I found that it all linked together really well.
Yeah, and also it talked on the fact that, like, you know, the more and more we get highly advanced as a society, it's going to be very hard to, like, keep immortality a secret.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, throwing in like a lot of modern day problems, and it's very fun to watch. It's a fun movie.
It's good. I recommend it, whether you're just in for it because of the actors, because you liked the comics, or because you just like a good action movie. I recommend it, and I love Andy and Alison. Before we go and end off the show, what are you excited about right now?
So I had some time off work. It was incredibly necessary.
Yes, it was.
I needed to reset my whole self. So in my time off, I decided to watch Our Flag Means Death.
Oh, the gay pirate show?
Yes. So it's amazing. I love it. I really do hope.
I've heard lots of good things about it.
I hope that they do get a second season. Everybody is very the fan base wants it so bad, because I am invested, and the way it ended, it's not allowed to end that way. I disagree, and I don't want it to be the end because I'm sad.
Aww.
But I'm not gonna say any more about the end because I don't want to spoil anything for people. But it's like I'm not usually the type to be like, yes, I like a dude with a beard. Not usually my thing. Taika Waititi as Blackbeard, though, is like, it's amazing. And I don't know if it's just all the black, if it's his funny little crop top that he wears because you see his belly all the time. I don't know if it's the fact that his beard is like graying. I don't know. Taika Waititi is hot in this show, and I'm like, all right. Usually he's like just cute. He's freaking adorable. I loved him as he was like a vampire in What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He's just the sweetest. And then it's like, no, he's gonna go play Blackbeard, and it's gonna be amazing. And then just all the gay pirates, and it's just like accepted. Like, it's not said vocally, but they just all are, and it's excellent. It's so good. And it was so wholesome and sweet, and I just want more of it.
Oh,
I was so sad. I'm like, half of me is like, I wish I almost didn't watch it, because now that it's like not getting a second season, I'm like, but yeah, Our Flag Means Death, super cute, super gay. Taika Waititi's hot. That's what I'm excited about.
gay pirates.
Yeah, gay pirates. I will always be excited about gay pirates. You can find us wherever podcasts can be found. Please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe if you haven't already. You can follow us on Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Wench Bench Pod. And if you want to reach out, you can send us an email at wenchbenchpod@gmail.com. All of the art for the Wench Bench was designed by the wonderful Tessa Joyce Riecken. You can find her on Twitter and Instagram at Werevile. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye! And now for a tangent that we went on in the middle of the episode. So, enjoy.
Before I forget, this is going to be a weird little tangent clip that you can take out and put anywhere, or you can leave it in this part. I don't care. But I told myself I had to tell you on our next recording, and I need to do it now before I forget.
Okay.
I watched The Bad Guys.
Okay.
The kids movie based off of a kids comic book series. And do you remember when you were talking to me about being a kid and being like, oh, why is Simba hot? And then being like, oh, like, I get why. I get why now, because the wolf in the movie.
You're like, I finally get Alison's obsession with an animated lion.
No, that's what it was. Because I've noticed, like, after we watched it, I kept watching. They have a thing on YouTube that you can watch where it's like them doing like this little music thing It's called Good Guys Musical or whatever like that. Anyways, I'm just like, I'm rewatching it over and over again. It's because I'm fascinated with the animation that they do for the wolf. And then I'm noticing them like, I hate that I am so focused.
Why is he hot?
I don't know. And he's like a lanky wolf man who's like got this like voice that gets me for animated characters. And I'm also just like, man, I also just like werewolves. And for some reason, this guy reminds me of like a man perpetually trapped in his wolf form. And he's just really cool. And then I was like, fuck.
Oh no. Yeah, it's a combination of things. It's super weird. And you're like, I should not be attracted to an animal that talks.
But the animators did so good. I feel attached. Anyways, I needed to tell you before I forgot.
Welcome to the confusing world of being attracted to animated characters. I mean, my favorite is when people talk about how they were like hot for the smog monster in Fern Gully.
What?
And it's like, did you ever watch Fern Gully? That movie was terrifying, first of all.
I never watched it.
There's a smoke monster that is voiced by so the character's name is Hexus, and it's voiced by Tim Curry. And it's like, it's one of those things that it's like, he's literally pollution personified.
Yeah.
In this movie. And it's like, but he's hot though.
A voice can do wonders.
The good voice can do so much. And then Nick and I just watched, I think it's Legend, where he's like a giant, like an actual giant devil man.
Yeah.
And he like wants to force like the main female character to marry him. And it's like, but he's hot though.
Oh God.
And it's like, God damn it, Tim Curry, what the fuck?
Fuck you, Tim Curry.
And of course you think Dr. Frankenfurter, you're just like, God damn it. Like, what is like, what happened in the 90s that made us all have these weird fucking feelings for like monsters and animals?
You know, it was something suppressed popped up in a bunch of people at once.
Weird happened.
Like, I don't know what the original content was that made everybody else like subconsciously put these things into their stuff to then have it spread across the globe to then now there be people accepting of their like monster fuckery and furry stuff. That
yeah, they're just like, you know,
like there has to be a single origin point, and I don't know what it is.
I don't know. The internet, probably. I blame everything on the internet. Get a bunch of people together who are like, hey, am I the only one who thought that line was hot? And then a bunch of people agree, and you're just like, okay, cool. So
you're like, thanks, I'm accepted.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not weird.
Anyways, I understand you now.
Yeah. I'm so glad.
It took a while. It took a 2021 children's movie to get me there, but you know,
well, that's what happened with a lot of people in Zootopia. That's when everybody started putting it together, I feel like. When Zootopia came out, people were like, where's this hot fox coming from? Like,
yeah. Mm-hmm. So
we have problems.